Ladies and gentlemen of PAX East 2019, it is time to kick off Group B. We already have two competitors who have advanced to the round of 16, and once again, we are at full reset mode in Group B. Everyone is 0-0. Our first match in Group B is going to be starting with the two-time world champion from Israel, Shahar Shenhar. Yeah, Shahar. Today we'll be running Esper Control and Mono White, a very popular combination here. His opponent is one of the top 8 players qualifying for Magic the Gathering Arena. It's going to be from Spain, AliaDeschain. Now she will be running Gruul Warriors and Mono White, and says that her favorite way to win is by using the combat step, which is something I firmly believe in as an enemy of blue players everywhere. Either way, very excited to see the match get kicked off. First game of Group B. Take it away, commentators.
Thank you, D9. Let's get all set here as players get seated. AliaDeschain and Shahar Shenhar facing off against each other. So the matchups that we have possible here, we could see a Mono White aggro mirror match. That's a possibility. We could see Esper versus Gruul Warriors. Or we could have Gruul Warriors and Mono White fight against each other. Mono White versus Gruul Warriors would be a bit of a slugfest. We'll see if that ends being what happens here. Let's take a look at the Esper Control deck here from Shahar Shenhar. Get a feel for what he's building. We mentioned it a minute ago, David, not the Dovin's Acuity build here.
Yeah, this looks like more traditional Esper Control. Teferis or win condition. It's got a Nezahal in it also, since we are playing best of one to kind of trump in case he runs into an Esper Control mirror.
A little bit of a hedge there.
Standard removal suite, some cast downs, Vraska's Contempt, Mortify, Cry of the Carnarium. Only one Mastermind's acquisition. As we saw, I think the last one we saw from Ken Yukihiro had 4. This guy only has 1, so it doesn't lean as heavily on it. Thought Erasure, huge card here. 4 Thought Erasures. Not, against aggro decks, not necessarily the best, but it does have the Surveil, so even if you draw it late, it does have some kind of benefit.
Kind of interesting, yeah. But I'm looking at the Cry of the Carnariums there. 3 of them? So great against Mono White. How is it against Gruul Warriors?
Not so good. I mean, it can kill a Direfleet Daredevil. It can get a Growth Chamber Guardian that doesn't have the mana available, but other than that, doesn't do much.
Let's take a look at the Mono White deck that Shahar Shenhar brought to the table here as well. Again, the deck is going to be chosen at random here for the first game. Pretty standard issue stuff here, right? This doesn't look like any big... I see Trusty Rusty made the cut. Yeah,
there's not much you can do with the Mono White aggro decks. I mean, people have been playing this deck since the format started and have kind of optimized it. 3 Unbreakable Formation is where people ended up. I remember when that card first started, a lot of players were playing 1 in their deck. Some had 0. Eventually it became 2, and people just realized how good that card is, and now we're up to 3. But other than that, everything is fairly standard. A lot of 4Xs. Sometimes the Rustwing Falcon doesn't make it. Looks like it made it in both their list here, just 2 copies of it. You don't want to overload on too many. I mean, there's a lot better 1-drops out there. Hunted Witness is the one of choice that you don't see too much, but I guess it survives Chaos Wrath, gives you a threat afterwards, and can live through a Chain Whirler.
Yeah, get that Legion's Landing transform kind of no matter what. Let's take a look at AliaDeschain's opening deck here, which is Gruul Warriors. Again, you mentioned it before, Dave. Really heavy red here. I mean, this thing does run Goblin Chain Whirler after all. Yeah,
Goblin Chain Whirler is a card you want on turn 3. You want to be able to play it as soon as possible and kind of wipe the board, especially against these Mono White aggro decks that have lots of 1-toughness creatures. But then again, you also want to cast green spells. So there's a lot of dual lands here that make red and green. Unclaimed Territory allows you to cast your Warriors, which you have the Growth Chamber Guardian, Goblin Chain Whirler, Gruul Spellbreaker, Zertog Goblins are Berserker, not a Warrior.
Okay.
Berserker. But lots of Warriors here, including the Goblin Chain Whirler, so Unclaimed Territory, which is only a 2-up, but it does help smooth the mana base. But a key card to look out for is the Banefire.
Oh, double Banefire here.
Banefire is a really good when it gets a control deck, because as you see, if it is X is over 5 or more, it can't be countered. But then again, Shahar has the Thought Scours, which really help getting the Banefires out of the hand.
The Thought Erasures? Yeah.
Thought Erasures, yes.
All right, let's take a look at the other deck here from AliaDeschain. Mono White aggro. Does this differ much from what you saw from Shahar? Not really.
The cards are in a different order, but I think it's pretty much the same. There's only 2 Rustwing Falcons, 3 Unbreakable Formations.
Yeah, that's where I looked too.
3 Conclave Tribunals. So I actually believe this list, on first glance, looks like an exact same 60.
Okay. So again, if we do see that mirror, it might be a true mirror match between our 2 players here. Once again, just to set the stage, Shahar Shenhar in the MPL, that's how he made his way here. But AliaDeschain did it the hard way, really. I mean, ground on Arena until she made it all the way to that top 8 at the end of the season, and that was no small feat.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pressure of that has prepared her for this tournament. I don't think we're going to see some of the nerves that you might see from some of the others that aren't used to this high level of competition. And I know she practices or tests with some other professional players, so she's got her. She's ready. I think she's ready.
Take a look at Shahar. Started playing Magic back in 2007 when he was a lot shorter than he is now.
Yeah, he's past me. He's up there with you now. I remember when he was a lot shorter than me.
Yeah, him and I are the same size, actually, or at least the same height. 30 Mythic championships. Yeah, that's a nice little career there. Of course, the big highlight for him, though, is being a back-to-back world champion.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think all Magic players aspire to, is being Magic World Champion. This guy's done it twice.
Yeah.
I mean, no one else can say that, so that's pretty incredible. And I think he actually, wasn't he in the top 4? He had a chance to be 3-time national champion this year, I believe. I mean, it might have been the year before, but he had a chance to do it 3 times.
No, it was this year, yeah.
It's kind of interesting, too, that, he doesn't have the Sunday play in the Mythic Championships, no top 8s, but 2-time world champion. So like you said, these kind of small field tournaments are his bread and butter, so I expect to see big things from him this weekend.
I'll tell you what, if he specializes in those, these are the ones to win. I mean, become a 2-time world champion and win this Mythic Invitational. Let's take a look at AliaDeschain.
Started playing Magic in 2003. He's got more experience than Shahar in general Magic. Doesn't have any Mythic championships, but has been playing a lot longer. I like this style. Win by using the combat step. Likes to attack. So if you knew that, there's not going to be any Esper control showing up for her.
That's right. Also, I like that. Who's your rival in the tournament? I want to beat them all. It's like, whoa, okay. Coming in guns blazing.
That's how there's no friends when you're in competition. You got to beat everybody. There's only one winner. It's like you're going to share the glory with everyone else.
That's
so
right.
I love her answer there.
She'll be nice after she beats you.
Exactly.
The time for niceties is not right now. Take a look at our 2 players as they are just about underway here in our feature match. Thanks so much for coming along for coverage here of the Mythic Invitational. We are on the show floor here at PAX East, so a little different than your normal high-level Magic tournament.
I just love her focus. Look, she's studying the deck list, game face on, no smiles here. This is business.
Yeah.
Getting ready. Shahar
kind of only has one mode. He's just in Shahar zone all the time. He's a chill dude.
Yeah, Shahar is a very chill dude. I like that. No nerves here. Getting their computers ready, getting set up.
And you see our... All right, so we're just going to take a quick word from our sponsors, and we'll be back with game number 1 here in our first match of Group B. Don't go anywhere.
That will change Ravnica forever.
Land cries out.
We have eyes everywhere.
Lines are being drawn as we speak. Whose side are you on?
Control the secrets, and you control the cities.
Death is just the next step. You first.
Steady! Steady! Now!
is about to change, and change is good for us.
And welcome back to the feature match area here at the Mythic Invitational, powered by Omen by HP. We are ready to go here as players get that last little bit of housekeeping done here before they battle it out. This is the premiere. This is the number one. This is the first match here from Group B. We have done a lot of the work in Group A to finding out who it is that's going to be advancing. Remember, 16 players start in a group, but only 4 get out of this first day. We're doing A and B today and C and D tomorrow.
So if I, correct me if I'm wrong, so while we're watching these players start Group B, those last 2 matches leading into 2 matches from Group A, I think they're going to be happening concurrently so that we can kind of fulfill that bracket while this one plays out.
Okay.
I believe that's what's happening.
I believe you. You wouldn't lie to me, right?
Well, I mean, I've been wrong before. Not very often. But
Okay.
it does happen every now and then. So it looks like Shahar did have his Esper control deck. I'm just trying to get a peek for us to figure out what deck he's running. He has clicked it a few times, so I think we might see Shahar on Esper control to start the match.
Okay. Yeah, and we mentioned it earlier before, though, but it's a little different than a normal tournament in that that deck is actually being selected at random for Shahar. So he doesn't get to pick at this point which deck he's playing. He gets to pick which 2 he brings to the tournament, but for game 1, it's random.
So he did.
Wow, look at that shot. That is a sweet shot of the tournament floor here. There's us down in the front.
Yeah, this arena, if you want to call it that, is pretty sweet.
I do. Oh, right. Let's take a look at the opening hands here. There's Shahar Shenhar's opener.
And it looks like AliaDeschain will be going first.
Not the worst, not the best, though.
Yeah, he doesn't have white mana. Both his lands coming to play tapped because he does lack an island or a swamp for those coming to play untapped.
Let's see if AliaDeschain is on which of the 2 aggressive decks. Oh, it's the white deck. That is definitely where she wants to be against a slow hand like that.
Well, I think
that's a nice one.
I
Yeah,
think either of those hands or either of her decks are good against
Sure.
that hand. That hand's frankly not that great. I'm going to be surprised if he did keep that hand. It looks like he did. He's going to have to draw into it because if he doesn't, he's not going to have a lot of time.
You go first, it says.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the thought is here. You have 2 lands. You have 3 1-drops, 2 excellent 3-drops to power those cards up, and you've got a couple turns to find that 3rd plains. And if you're not finding the 3rd plains, this deck's pretty cheap. You're going to be finding more creatures to play.
Oh, yeah. That's a sneep.
Yeah.
Snap keep, as we say in the business. By the way, you may notice also some of the cards look kind of sweet there in the opening hand. You see the Dauntless Bodyguard, the Sky Marcher, Aspirin, the Legion's Landing, Benalish Marshal, those type of things too. Those are called card styles.
So actually, since AliaDeschain is first, she chooses whether to keep her hand or not. Then Shahar. I'm gonna guess that Shahar's not gonna keep this hand. I mean, even if you do draw your lands, 4 of your cards cost 4 or more.
Yeah.
You're on the draw. You're not going to be able to play those cards until you're pretty low in life.
Yeah.
So
and let's not forget, Shahar had a chance to see these decks. I mean, he knows one of the 2 options is going to be very fast.
And well, they're both pretty fast. I mean, one is faster, but the Gruul
I'm
aggro
saying,
is
no matter what,
you're up against it.
Yeah.
You're going to be up against a 3-mana 4/4.
Probably going to want to ship it. But yeah, you can get these card styles now.
I think we're going to be giving out some codes at some point throughout the day.
We
so
are.
Make
we
sure
are
you stay
indeed.
tuned if you want to get your own fancy cards. And you can purchase some of them in the store, but I think the ones we're giving out might be exclusive. I looked in the store and I didn't see the ones I know we're giving out available, so it might be the only way to get them. Some pretty sweet
Can
cards.
I interest you in a Revitalize?
Well, you can interest these.
You seem
Esper
like an
control
Opt
decks.
man to me.
I like Opt.
You seem like an Opt
Do
guy.
you have a code for Opt coming at some point this weekend?
I didn't say that.
Oh, maybe so. I actually like Revitalize. I played a lot of
All right.
Bant Nexus, and Revitalize was key in surviving against these mono-red, mono-white aggro decks. I think she's just, this is a tough hand to keep, you know? She's in deep thought. Sometimes, you know, you want to ship back 2 planes and a couple Savannah Lions. Okay, our players here.
Yeah, it sounds like what's actually happening is that they're waiting for the go-ahead to start playing. And the reason for that is these players are on a round clock of 45 minutes, and they probably want to get that synced up with all of the other players before they actually begin.
Yeah, look.
Take a look at some of our side tables here. You see some of your favorite players and streamers. There's Ben Stark and Eric Froelich. Now, just because they're sitting across from each other, though, doesn't mean necessarily that they're actually playing against each other.
They actually are. That was kind of diagonal. It was a little confusing to look at. Their
But they
opponents
happen
were
to be.
walking away. They're sitting kitty corner to each other. They weren't playing each other, no. But I did see White Darby sitting there getting ready to play, so it looks like they will be playing out the bracket, the lower bracket from Group A, while this bracket plays out. So we'll have some results to give you about who moves on to each match and who possibly makes it to the top 16.
Yeah, that lower bracket is where you play for your tournament life, and then if you win, you get to play for your tournament life again. So wanted to say thanks again for joining us here.
I can't
We have a
imagine.
little bit of a delay, but we'll be underway shortly, I'm sure.
I've been in this spot before. You're Shahar. You've got a hand that's not keepable. You know you're going to mulligan, and you want to mulligan, but you're waiting on your opponent, and they're taking forever. Although now it's not his opponent's fault, but I've been in and like, come on, I want to mulligan. Now you do it simultaneously. But
I mean,
back
you know
in
the best story ever
originally you
from
didn't.
that.
What's that?
Luis Scott Vargas makes his historic run at Pro Tour San Diego.
Right. 16-0.
Yep, makes it to the top 8. And in the top 8, they hold his match. But first,
Draw your hands.
he gets to resolve mulligans. And he mulligans to like 5 against Jund, which was a deck that was very punishing to mulligans at that time.
think
And then they're
Lightning
like,
was a key
hold
card."
on a second. And 25 minutes later, he actually got to start his match. And so he had to sit there knowing
Probably
he
longer
was in
than
a
the match.
very much longer.
We're going to
Yeah.
torture you a little
I like
more.
that story. That's a good story.
One of my favorite mulligan stories ever. World Championships, 1999, I think. Kai Bude won it. I walked by a match playing for top 8 of World Championships. Mark Lapine on mono blue against mono red, an extended back then, an old format. And Mark Lapine looks at his 7. There's 0 lands in it, but he's got a bunch of his key cards. Sea Sprites, pro red creatures. And he thinks for a while and says keep. His opponent didn't speak English as a first language. Plays like says, Mark Lapine was on the play. Mark Lapine kept 0 land and said go.
Okay.
His opponent says, no, you said you would play first. And Mark goes, yes, go. And he goes, no, you said you would. And Mark, I agree, and I'm passing without playing a land. As the opponent's eyes got real wide, like, is this really happening? But somehow Mark Lapine drew an island the next 2 turns and was able to play the Sea Sprites and come back and win the game.
my
But it was the craziest keep I've ever seen. And this was game 3, top 8 of World Championships on the line. Incredible. But his opponents react, no, you're going. He thought Mark was trying to make him go first to get an extra draw. But
That
no.
is incredible.
Mark said, I'm keeping 7 with 0 lands.
All right, well, we're working out a little bit of an issue here with one of the other competitors, but we've actually got a matchup video that we can show you right now. So let's take a look at that when we come back. Hopefully we'll have things all sorted here for our first round of Group B. See you in a second.
My name is Shahar Shenhar. I am from Israel and I'm part of the MPL. Never been in PAX East, but I've been in PAX Prime in Seattle 3 or 4 years ago. And I didn't have the best experience of playing the World Championship. So this time I'm hoping everything is going to be much better for me.
I'm Beatriz. I'm a challenger player from Mythic Arena. My nickname is AliaDeschain. I'm from Spain. I like to win with attack. I attack with all my creatures.
My favorite deck archetype is Jeskai. I played it at both Worlds I won. I'm not playing it, sadly, at this event, but I'm playing a different control deck, Esper Control. There are a couple people that I don't want to play against. A lot of people in the MPL specifically I don't want to play against, but it would be amazing to play Reduke in the finals.
All the MPL players, I want to beat them.
I don't know much about Aaliyah. I know that she qualified through Arena to this event. She tested with Javier Dominguez, the current world champion, so I'm sure she's going to be a tough opponent, and I'm not going to underestimate her.
I like to see me in the finals with my boyfriend, Javier Dominguez.
Aaliyah, I'm not going to underestimate you, but I will beat you.
And welcome back to the feature match area here for the Mythic Invitational, powered by Owned by HP. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe. I'm with David Williams, and we are just about set here to get going again. We had just a small issue there with one of the computers, so that was the only problem, but looks like it's getting sorted out right now. We should be underway. We like to get all the players synced up at the same time because of that 45-minute timer. That way, they can all finish at the same time. We can make sure to move on with the next round in a timely fashion.
It's one of the differences when you're dealing with paper cards. It's a lot easier. You have them, you shuffle them up, you start. Sometimes with computers, as we all know, there's technical things that you have to kind of get ironed out, get everything worked on.
And because we're actually running the tournament on its own server, right? This isn't done on the production servers for Arena, where other people could be challenging you or doing some some stuff that could
Hey, I'm
screw
going to
it
go
up.
ahead
So-
and challenge this player right now and see if I can get a fun game in while we wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
none of that's
All right.
happening.
We are ready, though. Let's head on down. It's time for AliaDeschain versus Shahar Shenhar. And let's get underway here and see how things pan out. It looks like it was Shahar with his Esper deck. And a mulligan likely from Shahar. And then a really easy keep here for AliaDeschain. And it looks like she's been given the green light, so...
And this is one of those on the play where you get to play a 1-drop into 2 more 1-drops.
Uh-huh.
And
All right.
trigger that Legion's
Shahar's going to mulligan into a much better hand here with Search for Iskanta and the likely ability to cast Mortify on turn number 3 here.
Yeah, and he's got a land with a basic land type, so he can play the Godless Shrine, taps turn 1, and Drown Catacombs will untap. And Cry the Carnarium with double black already. All he needs to do is find a 3rd mana source, and he'll be able to wipe up all 3 of these 1-drops that AliaDeschain likely has on turn 2.
And she doesn't really have a lot of wiggle room with how she plays this out, right? I mean, you just run what you run. I mean, what are you supposed to do, right? Not play these cards?
No, I mean, this is what your deck is designed to do. You
Right.
have to do it. I mean, she's set up to be able to flip Legion's Landing on turn 3, which will give her access to 3 or 4 mana if she draws land post-combat.
It's a beautiful opener here for AliaDeschain, but we could see Cry of the Carnarium really throw a wrecking ball into the works here.
Shahar drew that 3rd land, so we will see Cry the Carnarium here, which is going to be huge. The Dauntless Bodyguard usually is able to protect one of your creatures from removal, but Cry the Carnarium gives them minus toughness, which Dauntless Bodyguard doesn't do anything against. Ouch. I think we're likely going to see another creature come into play. Luckily, with the Legion's Landing likely flipping, giving her a 3rd mana source, she'll probably play Banalish Marshal, which gives her a little bit of resilience against Cry the Carnarium, because it can live through the -2.
Yeah, if she plays History of Benalia, she'll have her entire board wiped away, but she will get the 2/2 on her next turn.
I think she's considering actually Conclave Tribunal to take out the Search for Iskanta, because Search for Iskanta is a pretty powerful card, but I think when you're a creature deck that your whole point is attacking, you don't want to miss those combat steps. So this is 5 damage and flipping the Legion's Landing.
Yeah.
Way more important than getting rid of the Search
Yeah,
for
I
Iskanta.
agree with you, David. It just seems like too much to give up to not go for that play. So bang, 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 down to 13 for Shahar Shenhar.
So this is interesting, right? Normally you want to, I was going to say, you want to play a History because it sets you up to play the Banalish Marshal and pump your creatures and attack for more. But this play walks right into Cry the Carnarium, and I think that's why she hesitated. She's like, maybe he won't have it.
Yeah, because I think she was thinking like, okay, what if Shahar has Kaya's Wrath for the not next turn, but the turn after that, and then she can afford to make a play like this because he might just be dead by that point, but not in this situation. Cry of the Carnarium really coming in handy here for Shahar. And boom, away goes your entire board, and you saw AliaDeschain kind of nod in a recognition of what just happened, but it is bad news for her. Now, she does have some rebuilds here, though, doesn't she, David?
Yeah, I mean, Adanto has flipped, which is huge. That allows, that's going to give you a continual source of damage. The History Banale did make another token right now. Tithe Taker's a good one. It does leave a token behind if it's faced with traditional removal spells. But I could see a Conclave Tribunal here to just go ahead and stop the search, but I'd rather just get the beats going.
It's kind of interesting because she can do Tithe Taker plus Tribunal, no damage for the turn, but take care of the search for Iskanta if she values that really highly.
Well, the Night token has summoning sickness anyways, so it wasn't going to attack. So Tithe Taker into Tribunal is an efficient use of mana, and it deploys threat. So I think that's what we're going to see here. Yeah.
So she's valuing getting rid of that search for Iskanta right away.
Because even though Search hasn't flipped, it does smooth out Shahar's draws, allows him to find mana, find the spells he needs. So getting rid of it is something you really want to do if you can. And this turn flowed right into that without taking any time off of attacking.
So now Shahar actually has a lot of options open to him as well. He's got Cast Down as a removal spell that can get whatever he wants on the other side. He can also Thought Erasure that last card out of hand from AliaDeschain, but he also has, well, he's just going to go for Mortify here to kill the Knight. So that's going to really make the History of Benalia a lot worse here.
Yeah, I mean, if he were to do anything but kill a creature, he'd be taking 6, going to 5, and also facing down Adanto. He's going to kind of get buried behind tempo, not having a 4th land here. So I think he wanted to kind of stop the bleeding. He can't wait also because of the Tithe Taker's ability. He has to do it in the main phase.
There's Snubport and Sentry hitting the battlefield, though. In order for it to get its big bonus 3 power, AliaDeschain's going to need to find 10 permanents. Yeah, 2 more in this case.
So right now she's holding her breath for no Kaya's Wrath, but I think she knows he wouldn't have waited on it. So he doesn't have much. I mean, he can cast down and kill one of the creatures. If he does that, he might as well Thought Erasure and get the Surveil, because she's not going to hold any cards in her hand. Or you get Chemist's Insight. You don't really want a Chemist's Insight when you're facing down 7 damage at 8. So we're going to likely see cast down on the Banalish Marshal.
And that's going to reduce AliaDeschain down to just 2 power at this point. Shahar Shenhar going for the main phase there because of Tithe Taker.
Now this is a spot where after combat, you could play Dauntless Bodyguard or you could make a token with Adanto the first fort. I think we're going to see a token made from Adanto so that if a Kaya's Wrath, oh, nope, maybe not. I was going to say it kind of gives you protection, but I guess the Dauntless Bodyguard can save the Tithe Taker, or save the Snubhorn Sentry because the Tithe Taker will give you a token. So you can kind of, you already have protection anyways. But sometimes I kind of wonder if you want to hold cards in your hand, but you don't want to get Thought Scoured either. I mean, excuse me, Thought Erasure.
All right, Tithe Taker hits. Shahar Shenhar is now down to 6 life, and he's facing down 4 power currently.
Yeah, and his land is going to require him to take 2 damage if he wanted to play Teferi, so I don't think we're going to see that. But then the only other option is really Chemist's Insight and take 4. You're only facing 8 permanents, so LA needs 2 permanents, but there are cards that make 2 permanents, such as History of Benalia, Legion's Landing. He's going to go ahead and play Teferi. Likely going to tuck one of these threats. Well, not like
he has to.
He's at 4.
So send the Tithe Taker pack in. It costs more mana, I suppose.
And then it puts an interesting decision on AliaDeschain. Does she attack Shahar to 2, or does she get rid of the Teferi?
Yeah, big decision point here for AliaDeschain.
Wow.
Ooh, History of Benalia off the top of the library.
Unfortunately for her, by tucking the permanent, she's down to 7, so this only puts her to 9.
Yep.
So she's still 1 off the City's Blessing.
Yeah, we're talking about permanence on the battlefield here for AliaDeschain because the Snubhorn Sentry will get 3 power once she gets to 10. And she's going to be an adult here and take care of Teferi. I mean, it's so tempting not to.
The thing is,
but Teferi's a big problem.
And you're still going to have lethal unless something gets removed
right.
either way. And Teferi giving the extra card and the 2 extra mana is huge.
Yeah,
I think
great
you definitely want to get rid of the Planeswalker here. Now, let's say they had 7 damage, Teferi was a little higher, and they were at maybe 9, then you want to consider it. But being whereas 4 and 2 are pretty much the same here, it's better to go ahead and get rid of the Planeswalker.
Absorb off the top of the library is not what Shenhar wanted to see, and it may be desperation time for him.
Yeah, he's looking for like land removal spell.
Yeah,
like
land.
Moment of Craving.
He needs to find something, and he didn't find it. Yep. Just a Thought Erasure, and game number 1 looks like it's going to go to AliaDeschain.
Yeah, the other option, he could have maybe hoped that she cast something pre-combat so he could absorb to go to 7. But I don't think she's going to make that mistake with lethal on the board.
Yeah, super risky. And Shahar gives the good game emote, and that is game number 1 going to Mono White and AliaDeschain. Even with that turn 3 Cry of the Carnarium, it wasn't enough for Shahar.
Yeah, he just wasn't, he didn't have the lands he needed. He sort of stumbled. He didn't have the cards he needed by mulliganing. So it was one of those things that happens to control decks. Sometimes your spells don't line up right, your mana's not right. I mean, you need a lot of things to go right. But once you do make it past that early game, then you're firmly in control. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to make it that far.
Yeah, you know what he really needed was just another sweeper, right? He had one. The second one would have just shorted up for him.
Second sweeper. And if he had hit his land drops on time and they weren't coming into play tapped, he might have been in a better shape also.
So the way this works for game number 2 is we know exactly what the players are going to be playing because it's the other deck that they brought to the table. So for Shahar, that means it's going to be mono white. And now he has to face AliaDeschain on Gruul Warriors.
So the good news is he's on the play. With the mono white deck, you pretty much want to be on the play. You want to get the jump. The bad news is the creatures in the Gruul Warrior deck are just a lot bigger.
For a similar cost, like...
Exactly. I mean, 2 drops. There's 3 mana 4/4s.
Yeah.
You've got to play a Loxodon. You've got to tap your other creatures or pay 5 mana. So the creatures are a lot bigger. Hopefully, and for him, he's hoping he can get the jump, maybe go wide and get more creatures out and attack through with some unbreakable formation. But it's not the spot he wants to be in, but at least he is on the play.
So if Shahar Shenhar is going to win this first round of the tournament, he's going to need a good draw here. Is that a good draw?
Not really.
Not really. Too trusty Rusty, the Rust-Winged Falcons in his opener?
It needs just one more land. If it had a second land where he could play Rust-Winged Falcon on 1, Legion's Landing Falcon on 2, be ready to flip it on 3, he would be in a lot better shape. Having 1 land is risky here. I think he's going to opt to mulligan because if he just doesn't draw a second land here, it's not going to get it done against giant green-red creatures that are fast.
2 mana, 3 mana, 2 mana, 3/3, 3 mana, 4/4.
It's a really tough. I mean, it's such. If he keeps it, here's the thing: if he keeps it,
he kept it.
He's keeping it. If he draws a land off the top, he's fine. If he doesn't, he's in bad shape.
This looks like a pretty good opener here for AliaDeschain. 2 lightning strikes to kill whatever the first 2 threats are, 3 lands, and then some nice big beef to follow up with.
Yeah, and she's got a good mix of lands. Like the Stomping Ground gets to come into play tapped, but you have nothing you want to play on 1. And then every subsequent turn, those Rootbound Crags come into play untapped. So she's going to be off and rolling. Wow. He drew the planes.
It is good to be Shahar Shenhar, folks, because that is how you do it right there. All of a sudden, this went from very sketchy to very nice. This is good.
Yeah, now she's going to have to go ahead and Lightning Strike one of these creatures, or Shock now that she's drawn Shock. I think she'll Lightning Strike just because it's more mana efficient, and later she can probably play a 3-drop. Oh, no, she's going to go ahead and Shock.
I kind of liked your play, though, because next turn she could Lightning Strike and Shock or play a 3, yeah.
Well, she's thinking...
She does need to do it now, though, so that that Legion's Landing can't transform.
Yeah, I mean, if that Legion's Landing flipped, then Shahar would be up at 3 mana, and that's pretty much all you want in these white decks. You want to get to 3 and stop. 4 is okay, but after anything more than that, you want to...
I know it's a lot to ask, but a land off the top there from Shenhar would have been pretty devastating. He would have been able to play History of Benalia and then have a Conclave Tribunal for whatever the first play was from AliaDeschain. As it stands, though, he instead found Hunted Witness and plays that a lot worse.
I think the Shock play might be coming back to get her because this is a spot where you could pretty much wipe the board and leave him with a Hunted Witness, and then next turn you'd be playing Rekindling Phoenix, and you'd have a huge blocker, although Conclave Tribunal is pretty good against Rekindling Phoenix, so he might leave Spellbreaker.
Okay, bang, bang, down to 15 now.
Because now she's in a spot where anytime she plays a creature, Legion's Landing gets the flip, because there's 3 on the board, so she has to kind of keep removing one. But that plan won't work because you know the white deck is nothing but creatures, so there's going to be more creatures coming. So I think at some point you're just going to have to give up on that fight and just deploy a blocker.
In this case, Rekindling Phoenix or, as you mentioned, the Gruul Spellbreaker are her 2 options.
Yeah, I mean,
the Phoenix being the more important option, so you were saying maybe she should lead with the less important one in case it's the thing that gets killed.
Right. I mean, you know there's Conclave Tribunal in the deck, so and that's the best answer to Rekindling Phoenix. So you might want to bait with the Gruul Spellbreaker because the Rekindling Phoenix blocks everything, even the flyers, and comes back. It's really hard for the white deck to deal with other than Conclave Tribunal.
It's Tribunal or bust.
So now she's going to go for the Lightning Strike. As we see, the whole mana efficiency is really kind of...
It kind of spiraled there.
Yeah.
Also, her life total is falling. Now, there's another Rekindling Phoenix off the top and no play from Shenhar as he draws another copy of History of Benalia. So there it is. Rekindling Phoenix is going to hit the battlefield. She decided just to go right for the throat.
Well, she got really lucky there. There was no 2-drop or 1-drop to kind of put the 3rd creature to threaten to flip Legion's Landing.
Right.
So that was a huge reprieve that allowed this play to work. But now she's able to play Tithe Taker. With it, she can't conquer. Excuse me, he can play Tithe Taker. He can't conquer Tribunal because he doesn't have the 4th mana.
But are we starting to see AliaDeschain pull ahead here now that she stuck the Rekindling Phoenix and Shenhar didn't answer it right away?
I wouldn't say pull ahead. I would say pull close.
Okay.
I mean, you're not out of the water yet. Conclave Tribunal is huge, and you are at 13. Shahar was, just now at 19 after combat. So right here, if there's a land off the top, you could see Conclave Tribunal.
No, it's a Skymarcher Aspirant.
But you can Skymarcher Aspirant into Tribunal or Venerated Loxodon. I think you're going to have to Tribunal here, being at 19, although you are only facing 8, and that is 3 combat steps to kill you. So he could set up a board to apply some pressure to kind of force her to hold back blockers.
Then leverage that Conclave Tribunal a little
to remove
later.
the blocker and attack. So I think we're going to see Aspirant into Loxodon. That way, if she decides to attack for 8, play the Spellbreaker, he can remove the Spellbreaker and then attack back for 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and put her at 3.
There it is. The big elephant hits the battlefield and buffs the team 3-2, 2-2, 3-2, 2-2. Now standing alongside it, another land here for AliaDeschain. That has really been the problem here for her, is that the misstep early made it difficult to use her mana effectively, but she's also just drawn way too much of it.
Yeah, now she's flooding, and you really need to draw threats or at least blockers to kind of shore the board up so that you can attack with your Rekindling Phoenix.
I mean, look at that last play from Shenhar, right? Like, for tapping 2 lands.
You put 8 power on the board.
Yeah.
8 more. 4, 4, and 4, 1, 1, 4 plus 1 plus 1
Yeah,
counters.
well, and the Skymarcher Aspirant that same turn. It's like, what the heck? That's off 2 lands.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this
incredible.
play because now she's faced with a choice. I mean, him being at 19, the lifelink from the 1/1 token for all those turns was huge because if he were at 16, she could attack here. He doesn't have lethal back, barring another +1/+1 on his team for something like Unbreakable Formation. She could be threatening lethal. Now she kind of has to hold back.
Well, she's decided to split the difference here. Attack with one of the Rekindling Phoenixes, play the Gruul Spellbreaker, Thanks to Riot, it's going to get a +1/+1 counter. It's a 4/4 with trample. She passes the turn back to Shenhar, who draws another venerated Loxodon. But right now, his primary task is assessing combat. He's looking at, well, what does this actually look like for me?
So now she's set up to where she could attack for 8 and then attack for 8 again in the air. So he's either got to get the City's Blessing to get the Aspirin as a blocker for 1 turn, or make sure he's threatening lethal past 1 blocker so that if he does deploy the Loxodon and she attacks for 8, he's able to remove the Spellbreaker and attack back for the win, or he's going to be dead.
But also, no, what's also interesting, though, is that he does have a 2/2 lifelinker, which takes him from 15 to 17. It's like just 1 above the 2-turn clock here.
Yeah, every point is mattering here, every little lifelink point. So this is a very complex combat step.
Yeah, and you see the players have paused here a little bit because of how this is very intense combat math, because another thing that we have to remember is the Spellbreaker has trample as well. So that 1 extra life that Shahar can gain to, escape the Rekindling Phoenixes, he's going to have to make sure that he can block a Trampler. And also, there could be another Gruul Spellbreaker off the top of the library. That's 3 more power of hasted trample. So,
yeah, I mean, it's tough because part of me wants to say I like Loxodon here because you can get your other Loxodon on the 5/5.
Yes.
You'll have a 4/4 back to trade with Spellbreaker if he does decide to attack with it.
Oh, and look at this, the full-out attack here from Shenhar. Shenhar, he's going to send every single one of his creatures into the red zone. He says, I don't care. Block however you want.
Yeah, I mean, I like this play because it allows him to play History of Benalia post-combat. I mean, that's pretty much all he can do. He can't cast either of his other 2 cards. And it really, it puts AliaDeschain's life total at a point where I think they might have to all hold back and block.
These blocks look pretty good there, though, for AliaDeschain, because she gets to eat the venerated Loxodon. The Rekindling Phoenix will turn into the token and then come back on her turn. And then the Spellbreaker just gobbles up that Sky Marcher Aspirant with no loss.
And Sky Marcher Aspirant could have been a key creature because it can gain flying eventually and block.
Right. So that combat does happen, but as you see, AliaDeschain down to 6 life now, potentially up against the ropes. And there's that History of Benalia that you mentioned a second ago, David. His only option post-combat. Here comes the Rekindling Phoenix back into play, and another land off the top for AliaDeschain.
Yeah, and he put himself in a position here where AliaDeschain, if she holds back 1 blocker and he draws a land, he can just remove the blocker and attack for... Actually, if she holds back 2 blockers, he can remove the blocker. So she's going to have to hold back all 3 by drawing a land if he draws a land here. So if she attacks with 1 creature and he draws a land, he has lethal.
It's over. Shahar Shenhar is fighting. And he's the one who's down a game here.
Yeah, and if not, even if he doesn't draw a land, the History of Benalia is going to make another token, which will set it up to where she has to have another blocker the following turn.
All right, she is attacking.
She's thinking it through, but I mean, from her point of view, you kind of don't have too many options. You have to eventually pressure your opponent, or this board's going to keep building. The life-leaking creatures are going to keep coming, and you're eventually going to be in a spot where you can't win.
I mean, if she does attack, it's over, right?
She does attack.
Because you get a token from the history, and then you can just
tap the token,
tribunal.
tap the 3 lands, tribunal, and it's over, yeah.
So she actually okay, and look at this. She finds the line. She holds back all 3 blockers. Now, this does not mean that she's in good shape.
No.
But it does mean she's not dead on board.
Because next turn, those tokens are all going to be a lot larger. They're going to be 4/3s.
Yeah.
So she's going to have to draw a blocker or a removal spell again next turn. And he's going to still be able to put more things on the board right now.
Absolutely.
Maybe even another History of Benalia, which that token would get the benefit from the previous History of Benalia.
Yeah, is there any risk to him from just going History of Benalia, make a knight, and then play the Loxodon? Oh, sorry, he's down a land for that. My bad.
He could do it. He could just tap the creatures.
Oh, sure. Oh, he actually does have enough, doesn't he?
And he's at 17. He's not facing lethal.
Yeah, so he can just do that then.
And I'm pretty sure he knows the card in her hand is land, because if it were a creature, it would have been played. If it were a removal spell, it likely would have been played. He can make an educated guess, so I think he has a few options here.
At 17 life, I mean, he is facing down 12 power, but it is pretty tough to be killed from that life total from this position. So we're actually going to see that line that I mentioned a second ago, it looks like. What did he play first?
He played Legion's Landing.
He played Landing, okay. I guess he really values getting that lifelink with the +1/+1 counter on it.
He could actually play Legion's Landing and, Loxodon and Conclave Tribunal here.
Convoke is pretty absurd.
And now he's going to go ahead and Tribunal and get rid of one of the creatures because it's way more mana efficient.
Wow.
And it's pretty
What
much
a turn.
no way he can die this turn, and then there's no way he can not win next turn either.
Incredible turn for Shahar Shenhar. He knows he's got to win this game and the next one if he is going to pick up this match.
This game's over.
It's done. This one is going to go to Shahar. with a devastating turn. Only 3 lands on the battlefield and plenty enough for him. Boy, that land off the top of the library going back to turn the first turns of the game there for Shenhar. Clutch.
Clutch.
And now we're going to see the old Mathis for blockers attack here in a second here from Shenhar. He's just going to send them all in and say, you figure it out.
Yeah, with your opponent at 6 and 7 creatures. 7 large creatures.
7 massive beaters, and that is going to do it. Game number 2 goes to Shahar Shenhar. He is even things up against AliaDeschain, and
yeah,
we're going to get a game 3.
I mean, who knows? The sequencing was a little off with the lightning strike shock that put her kind of behind on tempo, but she drew so many lands. I don't think it actually would have mattered. It would have saved her some time early, but then she would have just been in that spot where we just saw at maybe 12. But at 12, you still aren't that great in that spot. It might have allowed her to get some attacks in with the Phoenixes to actually threaten lethal, but I don't think so.
It's one of the things that always surprises me about this mono white deck is it is remarkably resilient. You know, you can normally, when you think of these type of strategies, a whole bunch of small creatures, somebody plays a sweeper, you're kind of done, right? You play these decks when you don't think that people are going to be playing cards like that. Not this one. This one can come right back. Legion's Landing, of course, being the key to that in most cases. But, you know, History of Benalia also.
So now they've got some choices. Shahar's got to think, you know, Esper, does he want to go against either of these kind of sort of aggro decks? I think he might. I think that's more of his style. I know he likes these kind of decks. It looks like, though, looking at his screen, it looks like he's got the white deck selected, but I don't know if that's just because he hasn't moved his he hasn't moved around yet or not.
Little pump fake from Shahar here, maybe.
He could be checking the round time too, because you also have to be, you know, conscious of that. You don't want to be on an Esper control deck, have times run out, and you're likely going to be on a lower life if you haven't taken over and lose the game. So
and that's the tiebreaker, right?
that is the tiebreaker. So it looked like he might have had his mono white aggro deck selected. We'll find out shortly. Beatriz, or excuse me, AliaDeschain looks deep in the tank here. I'm not sure. I mean, I like the Gruul Warriors deck against the mono white aggro, but I think you might just want the mono white aggro because, as you saw, if Shahar's mono white aggro gets going, it could be tough for your Gruul Warriors deck. I still like the matchup though, so I don't know how much I like it against Esper Control.
All right, looks like we have our openers here.
Shahar on the play with mono white aggro, and she's stuck with the Gruul Warriors deck.
Yeah, she stood with it here, and you see the Chain Whirler in the opener. It really stands out in this matchup, doesn't it?
Yeah, and he's got a hand that's really vulnerable to it. 2 Tithe Takers and a Sky Marcher Aspirant, which unfortunately he drew a little off sequence. He drew it turn 2, so he wasn't able to play it on turn 1. Oh, wow.
So is he just going to slam History of Benalia here instead then?
Oh, wow. Well, we'll see. I like this. She's not going to remove it. She's going to go ahead and play Daredevil and not get the advantage of its ability, but just because it has first strike, it's going to force Shahar's hand, and it might force him to play some more 1 toughness creatures, which will walk him right into Chain Whirler.
Okay, well, he's going to play around that by just making the mana-efficient, sort of straightforward play of dropping History of Benalia here on turn number 3. And Chain Whirler, though, still can get some value, can take out that Tithe Taker.
Yeah, but I think she can wait here. I mean, taking out 1 Tithe Taker while you've got it under control with the first striker is not that important. Gruul Spellbreaker is a pretty big, beefy threat. It's hard to get by a 4/4. But this is what I was saying. I like this matchup, even though last round didn't work out because she drew so many land. I like this matchup for her.
Just bigger. She just goes bigger.
She goes bigger.
I mean, this is kind of where you want to be, right? Like half a turn slower and a toughness and power bigger or whatever.
And it was also very fortunate, even though Shahar was on the play, he didn't have a 1-drop. He didn't start with a 1-drop. It didn't have like 1-drop into 1-drop.
Wow, is she going to play Shock over a Spellbreaker here?
It looks like she's trying to bait Shahar into dumping his 1 toughness creatures for the Chain Walker.
For the Chain Whirler?
Excuse me, Chain Whirler, yeah.
Yeah, but you could just have a 4/4 with Trample.
Yeah, I mean, that forces your opponent to play creatures out also.
And it also kills your opponent.
It attacks. It is
very
pretty
quickly.
beefy.
Yeah, I like this play a lot better. Also, of course, a more mana-efficient play as well.
So Shahar's looking for a turn where he can play his 1 toughness creatures and then also a Venerated Loxodon in the same turn, which kind of makes him Chain Whirler proof. And I think we're going to see
How about
that
right
here.
now?
2, 3.
Does now work for you?
That was
I
perfect.
can be there now if you want to be there
He
now.
actually can play his entire hand. No, look, this is amazing. He can play his entire hand.
This is incredible.
And Goblin Chain Whirler does nothing against it. I mean, still a 3/3 first striker, but it's not going to get any of the benefit. And here goes the Hunted Witness.
Yeah, and of course, getting down the... oh, is he not going to play the Witness?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there's no sweepers. I guess he just decided he wants to put a counter on all these creatures anyway, so
Oh,
he can just
sure.
play it post-combat.
That
Yeah,
makes
he
sense.
wants those knights to become 3/3 so that when they get the benefit, they become 5/4s.
Yeah, of course, also the Venerated Loxodon just being on the battlefield, a nice play here as well because it trades with the Gruul Spellbreaker. He doesn't have to put 2 creatures in front of it that way.
Yeah, Shahar's draw was quite incredible this turn.
I mean, he's just dumped his entire hand.
He's dumped his
It's
hand
turn
and used
4.
all his mana every turn except the first.
Yeah, and somehow he didn't even start off well. Wow, what an incredible draw here for Shahar Shenhar, looking to pick up game number 3 against AliaDeschain.
I mean, this is a good, not good, but it's an okay spot. I mean, she will have 2 creatures with first strike and a shock in her hand. So if Shahar decides to send everyone next turn, she's got some pretty good blocks, you know, to utilize first strike to her advantage, along with the shock if she needs to. So we're going to see the 3rd chapter of History of Benalia give a benefit to the Knights. We're likely going to see all the creatures just come in, and then we'll see some first strikings. Well, probably not the 1/1, but you might send the 1 because if he decides to block with one of his 3 blockers in the 1/1, then something else gets through. So sometimes you have to throw away some of your smaller creatures to get through damage.
Play one way, baby. Everything into the red zone for Shahar Shenhar.
So
And once again, he says, you figure out the math.
She's got a tough choice here. You could, oh, she can't cast shock actually because of the Tithe Takers. I think she might have actually, I forgot about it, so I think she might have not thought about it because you might have wanted to shock on your own turn, or perhaps she wants to set up shock for next turn. But he's going to go ahead and throw some first strikers, possibly in front of the Tithe Takers yet. Take a hefty 14. Oh,
Now-
nope, the Spellbreaker's no longer blocking. It's going to block a Knight.
Now, this would free up that shock, right?
Yep.
First strike damage
First strike
happens.
damage.
Tide Takers go away, and then she could kill the Sky Marcher Aspirant or something like that.
Which is why I think you definitely want to put the first strikers on the Tithe Taker so then you can shock in combat, but maybe she wants to shock post-combat. Ooh, there won't be any shock in post-combat if those Tithe Takers don't die.
Yeah, she actually needs both of them to go away as well.
I'm not sure if I'm a big fan of this block because those 5/4s are only going to be 2/2s next, or excuse me, 3/3s next turn. And if you can keep your Chain Whirler and your Spellbreaker alive this combat, you'll be able to block them next turn.
Yeah, she's prioritizing keeping her life total as high as possible. And, I mean, to be fair, she kind of needed to, right? She was at 20, but now she's at 6 after that combat. So let's see how this plays out from here. She finds a Direfleet Daredevil.
Well, thing is, she's got
Shock
to use the
first.
shock on the Sky Marcher Aspirant because at 6 with nobody in reach,
Yeah.
you've got to deal with the Flyer.
2
There's only
turns, you're
turns
dead.
of that, you're dead. And now the Spellbreaker's a lot bigger than the Tide Takers in the first strike, so I think this is kind of short up combat here.
How about a 6-turn clock there for Shahar Shenhar? Rustwing Falcon off the top of the library. He really wanted to see Conclave Tribunal, but
He's got an interesting decision, too. He could send the Tide Takers and turn them into 1/1 Flyers, but then
Oh.
a Chain Whirler would just sweep those right up. So he decides to just hold back and keep them here.
yeah, it makes sense. And he does have a clock now. Direfleet Daredevil's going to hit the battlefield here for
Yeah.
AliaDeschain.
She's got to find a way to pressure Shahar, or he's just inevitability. He's just
Wow,
gonna win with the
another
Rustwing
Tithe
Falcon.
Taker here for Shahar. But key to this game right now somehow is the lowly Rustwing Falcon attacking for 1 damage. And it's going to need 5 more turns to get the job done. But right now, there is no removal in sight for it.
Yeah, we're going to need a removal spell, and then maybe a post after that, find a Chain Whirler and try to get the Tide Takers off the board so you can kill
Yep.
the 1/1 Flyers.
Ooh, Sky Marcher Aspirant off the top of the library for Shahar.
This presents lethal because the attack here will put LA at 4, and then a 3/2 Flyer and a 1/2 Flyer.
Well, it looks like he's going to attack with one of the Tide Takers to try to upgrade it into a Flyer to set up lethal for next turn. He would have a 1/1 Flyer, 2/1 Flyer, and the 1/2 Flyer, which would be lethal.
Yeah, this is a turn where she really wants to draw a Goblin Chain Whirler because it's going to take care of the 1/1 Flyer left over from the Tide Taker
Yes.
and the Sky Marcher Aspirant if it is played, which I
Oh,
imagine it
boy.
will be because of Prince Lethal.
Huge draw step here for AliaDeschain. Can she find a Chain Whirler to take care of 2 of these Flyers? No, it's another mountain off the top of the library. And there's really nothing for her to do but pass the turn back.
I misspoke. I said it would be 3 power, but it doesn't have a counter on it.
I know, that's why I said that's why he attacked with the Tide Taker to get that
Yeah, you're right,
critical
you're right.
last power. And that is 2, 3, and 4 damage. GG's. Shahar Shenhar wins his first match here in Group B and sends AliaDeschain into the lower bracket. But remember, this is double elimination. So nobody's eliminated from this. AliaDeschain still very much alive in the tournament, but now definitely has her work cut out for her with no wiggle room left on the day.
She's going to need some better draws. I mean, as you saw with her Gruul Warriors deck, both games she pretty much flooded, didn't have a lot going on. Going to have better draws than that if you want to make it through this tournament.
That's right. And, you know, we did see her manage to finally stabilize that board with the exception of those flyers. And that ended up being the weak point there for AliaDeschain. So she wasn't quite able to get the job done, but Shahar Shenhar, maybe he really is a short field specialist here because once again, starts things off the right way, 1-0 for Shahar.
Can you imagine? 2-time world champion and then come win the first Mythic Invitational?
You think he just retires at that point? He's like, we had a good run, but I got nothing to prove.
Go collect your checks. Just show up and collect your checks.
Yeah, but you know what I think would actually happen is we would be even more focused on Mythic championships and him getting some top 8s in those. Because, I mean, he's been near the top of the list of people who, you know, are due for a Mythic championship top 8 for a long time.
He's at the top of my list.
Yeah, I think he's number 1.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
2-time
so
world
too.
champion.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right, well, that's it for us here for Group B game number 1. But we've got Becca Scott with Shahar right now.